Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. It's time to do a What's Been Spinning video. This is the little video series or whatever you want to call it, where I share with you all the albums that I've been listening to since the last What's Been Spinning video. As always, I like to stress at the beginning of these, I only share the albums that I sat down and listened to from front to back, not the ones where I kind of just jumped around and listened to a song here or there. Because as much as I like listening to an entire album, I do love jumping around from song to song too. I always call that when I get in DJ modes, when I start listening to music like that. But yeah, these are the things that I took in from front to back. And since there's quite a bit of stuff, I'm just going to go ahead and make a call now to divide this into two different parts. So this will be part one, then I'll come back and do part two, just so I don't have like one gigantic video here. But let's start off with some cassettes here. We'll start off with Nina, 99 Love Balloons. You know, pretty big album by her from back in the 80s. I think overall, this is an album that gets, the album overall gets a little overshadowed. That's what I'm trying to say, actually, by how big 99 Red Balloons and 99 Love Balloons, how big those two songs were. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really, really great, solid 80s type of new wave album from front to back. And even more so than that, you know, has put out so many albums over the years, but this tends to be the one that she's kind of known for. But really, really solid album, really fun listen there. Yaz, another great 80s classic right there, Upstairs at Eric's. Of course, you know, you have Don't Go and Only You, just, I mean, two of the great, great songs from that time frame. Little Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers. This is their album Conscious Party. One of my favorite reggae albums, and a very kind of not poppy, but a very accessible reggae album. For someone maybe that's not really into reggae music, this is kind of a good place to start dipping your toe. My favorite song off of this is Tomorrow People, but then you also have like the title track, Conscious Party, New Love, Tumbling Down, just a lot of really great stuff on here. So yeah, love Ziggy. Of course, son of Bob Marley. And the last cassette I'll show is this one. That was a fun one to go back to as well. Rock of the 80s compilation here. And as you can see, this one's kind of beat up or whatever, but normally this is, like, you know, the case is busted, comes right off. And this normally is not one that I would have in my collection. You see it's kind of taped up there and the words are all missing. But the only reason I've kept this one is because this is the actual copy of this that I got back in 7th grade. We took a trip to a town that was a little ways over, and I found this at a mall, and this was the first thing I ever brought into my house that had like Journey, Open Arms, you know, Keep on Loving You, REO Speedwagon, you know, Men Without Hats. I mean, just all kinds of just amazing 80s stuff. So this, talk about sentimental value, this tape has a ton of that. So I'm not going to replace the jewel case there, and I'm not going to get rid of this. This is going to be something that's going to stay part of my collection for forever. So that was kind of a fun thing to revisit. CDs. I went and dove back into White Town, one I haven't spun in quite some time. This is Women in Technology. The big hit off of this one was Your Woman. And it's so funny, too, because this came out somewhere, is it the late 90s or something like that? And again, this is kind of the days before your Google and all that type of stuff, so you didn't just automatically know what every artist looked like and all of that. And I just always thought Women in Technology, it was a group of women doing kind of electronic kind of music, because that's the way, even vocally, the way it sounds. And come to discover, it's just one British dude that was White Town. And when you see him, like, you would never walk by him and think, oh yeah, that's a big pop artist right there. But yeah, so anyway, fun revisit, great little track. If you're not familiar with it, go check it out. You're a Woman by White Town. PM Dawn, you know, greatest hits, another fantastic one here. You know, kind of a smooth hip hop, if you will. Almost a melodic hip hop sometimes in some ways. But, you know, it's stuff like Set Adrift on Memory Bliss and Die Without You, and a lot of just the fantastic samples that they use. It's just a great, great listen with this album. Would love to see a greatest hits like that on vinyl. Leona Ness here. Another nice spin. I tried to rock you, but you only could roll, which is also my favorite track off of this particular album. But yeah, just kind of was this early 2000s, I think, something of that nature. But yeah, another really good album. Just kind of want to check out if you're not familiar with it. I believe she is Diana Ross's stepdaughter. I believe that's kind of the connection or whatever. But yeah, cool album there. Cutting Crew. You know, I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight. Everyone remembers that classic album from the 80s and that single. Melissa and the Crash Trio. Really kind of a cool jazz trio right here. You have Melissa on sax, and then a bass player, drummer, which is also kind of nice because with it not being a huge band, there's nice separation that you get to hear when you're kind of listening to it, which is cool. Anytime a saxophone player even remotely gives me a little John Coltrane flavor. Like, I mean, she's no John Coltrane, don't get me wrong, but it's still like when I listen to her on this album, I feel the Coltrane vibes, and that automatically brings me in with any sax player. But really, really great stuff. Hadn't spun this in a while, so that was a great one to go back and revisit. Peach Union, On My Own. Again, kind of some of that 90s, 2000s, electronic-y, dancey type of stuff. But yeah, I really loved that song when it first came out, On My Own, and hadn't spun this in a while. But I wish they would kind of put this out on vinyl. Even if for no other reason, I would love to see that artwork on vinyl. I've always loved that cover. But yeah, really cool stuff, and another one I hadn't spun in a while. And Little Brute Force there. And the best thing I can say about this particular CD is it sounds the way it looks. Very kind of horns, jam band, a lot of flavors from different, like from different styles of music and that type of thing. Really, really cool album. So those are some of the CDs there. So yeah, let me dive into a few records and I'll jump over to part 2. But vinyl-wise, we'll start Little Rush, Moving Pictures. This is live 2011, which is just like it describes there. A pretty good live recording. I'm always kind of iffy with live records, but I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, the band sounds 9 to 10. I mean, it's fantastic. Geddy's vocals, somewhere around a 6. Kind of like not quite getting to all the notes and fighting a little bit, that type of thing. I mean, still sounds good, but just not perfect, if you will. But yeah, still just kind of a fun revisit, that kind of a different way to take in Moving Pictures. So that's a 2011 pressing of that. And of course, you guys remember, 1984, Panama, Jump, everything else. So I'll Wait, Drop Dead Legs. Just another fun revisit of a classic album that we all know all too well. 3 Times Dope, Funky Dividends. This is a 12-inch single. Yeah, one of my favorite albums from back in the day, or favorite singles, I should say. I'm still looking to get the studio album, actually. But that one does not pop up very often at all. But yeah, Funky Dividends was the main track off of that, and still love it. I love the old school Jordans, too. Those things are so nice. But yeah, so that was kind of a good revisit on a kind of an old, it's somewhat of a silky beat, too. It's not quite jazzy, but it's kind of light jazzy kind of beat to it, which is cool. And one of my favorite gospel albums right here, which is Al Green's Soul Survivor from 1987. Great album here. Everything's Gonna Be All Right. Arguably my favorite Al Green song, which is saying a lot. Also, Jesus Will Fix It, another fantastic song off of this album. And then he even does a couple of covers with You Got a Friend and He Ain't Heavy. So just Al doing Al there. But like I said, really, really great gospel album. Kind of strange when a gospel album is kind of this funky sometimes in places. But that was Al. And then staying with the gospel, The Mighty Clouds of Joy, Truth is Power. Again, one of the big legendary groups in gospel music. Actually, my cousins, my uncle, aunt, cousins, but they had a group called the Hewlett Family that actually performed with the Mighty Clouds of Joy, I think a couple of times actually. But yeah, really fantastic group here. This is their release from 1977. This is kind of more of their upbeat type of stuff. My favorite song by them, actually, which is not on this album, is "I've Been in the Storm." Love that song to death, and it really kind of shows the power of the Clouds in that song. So yeah, great gospel group there. Just one of the legends. And then we have a little Bon Iver here. This is released from 2011. Really kind of, I mean, for the most part, kind of the only album I really like by him, but I really like this album. Love the feel of it. This pressing has been a little disappointing though. Bought it brand new back in 2011, and Ultrasonic cleaned it a couple of times and all of that, and really can't get it to play better than like an excellent minus maybe. It's just was not a very good pressing in that, at least my copy, for whatever reason. So probably gonna try to see if there's a different pressing I can get, or maybe I just even go to the CD on this one, because there's so many quiet parts in this album that you really need to have something that plays like perfectly clean. So but anyway, still great album, good stuff there. Eddy and the New Bohemians. This is their release from 1988. Of course, they had the big hit off of here, "What I Am," which is a fantastic track. Love her voice, but one of my favorite things off of this has always been the guitar player. What's his name? Total brain fart. But yeah, just his mixture of kind of that folky, jazzy kind of guitar that he does, I think just really brings a beautiful element to the entire album. But you even kind of really hear it in the guitar solo of "What I Am." So really cool stuff there. Hadn't spun that one in a while. Little Striper, "Soldiers Under Command," another fantastic one there. Just one of the great bands from the hair metal days. I shouldn't say from the days. I mean, they're still putting out stuff now, which is fantastic. So Striper's still doing their thing, and actually getting heavier over time. And then the New York Dolls, another great one here from 1973. Kind of bringing in the whole glam thing with that mixture of glam, kind of some punk elements and all of that. It was really kind of creative at the time, and just one of those legendary albums right there. All right, let me show one more, and I'll go over to part 2. And then here we have Testament. This is Low. This is their release from 1994. Testament is just an awesome band. I think one of the thrash bands that does not quite get the credit it deserves, that has been so consistent over the years. If you had to turn the big 4 into the big 5, they would be the first band that I would put in there. And then, of course, you have to go Exodus, and then you have to go Overkill. But then the big question is always, if you had to go to the big 8, who would be the 8th band that would go in? That's always the big question. But yeah, gave Low a spin the other day. Like I said, I think with Testament, it's so easy to... Testament, you go to Practice. Or Testament, you go to Order. Or, I think those are kind of maybe Souls. The albums that you automatically reach for, and sometimes their other stuff gets a little overlooked. So that's their release from 1994. So there we go, VC. That'll be part 1. And actually, I'll just leave a link down below if you want to go see part 2 and see what else I've been spinning. Click right down there. All right, we'll talk to you soon.